I will give context to this in a second, but I know WCW was not the most stable presence in 1992, and it's taken me 6 months to get to a point where I could start letting the storyline speak for themselves and have a hotter direction and a better direction. And a better direction for the company. But the fact of the matter is, it starts with tonight, it starts with the end of June, and it starts with the fact that the executives are out. Jim Herd is gone. Kip Troy is gone. Bill Watts is the on-air commissioner, and the situation has been improving justifiably over the last couple of months, with now the Dangerous Alliance coming apart at the seams. We will talk about that segment in a second, but the talk of the town is the fact that Eddie Gilbert showed up at the Great American Bash to end the show and fireballed Sting. Sting has been having issues with Cactus Jack and Abdullah the Butcher the last couple of weeks, and following the match between Abdullah and Cactus against Sting and Dusty Rhodes, who returned to the ring last night, or last weekend at the Great American Bash, Dusty Rhodes and Sting won, but following the match, Cactus, Abby, and the Super Invader jumped in. The lights went down. And the fireball popped off. And when the lights came back on, it was clear that Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert had fireballed Sting. And now the only question remains is, why did Eddie Gilbert fireball Sting? The one question that remains is why. And now we have also Bill Watts versus Brian Pillman. This will not lead to a match, but it will lead to a feud. Pillman turning heel. A few months ago, I got injured. And my title was vacated. Fast forward a few weeks ago, I find out that title doesn't exist anymore because of Bill Watts. So Brian Pillman is basically going after Bill Watts because he chose to get rid of the WCW Light Heavyweight Championship. Instead of keeping the belt around, he chose to get rid of it and move on from the WCW Light Heavyweight title, or Light Heavyweight division, partially because Brad Armstrong, who was the champion at the time, has signed with New Japan. And that kind of killed the division, because when the champion signs and is ready to leave to go somewhere else, it kind of kills the division when you don't have a champion anymore. And, that kind of led to the question of, well, what's next for the lightweight division? And I thought it might just be better to retire the title. It might just be better to retire the title and move on. So that's what I did. I retired the title and I moved on. Um, NWA World Heavyweight Champion Jushin Liger going up against Don Morocco. Interesting opening matchup, but I never said that my roster was perfect. I never said my roster was perfect. I just said it was. I just said it was here. You know, I just said it was here. I just said it was a solid roster, or the roster had come together. You made a mistake, Eddie. You fireballed the lifeblood of WCW. And when Stinger gets back, you will feel the power of all these little stingers in the crowd, and every single one of us standing side by side with the stinger. See, initially, I was gonna have Ron Simmons get fireballed or Dusty Rhodes get fireballed because basically it would allow, like basically Sting would then have to end up standing on his own with nobody standing with him. You know what I mean? And basically that point would be Sting standing on his own, odds stacked against him, blah, 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 blah. But I chose to go a different route with it and instead having the other guys standing alone or standing without Sting and having to defend the Stinger. But that's just my perspective. That was just my perspective on it. I thought that that would be the best way to do it. And, that was my decision. Whether it was the right decision or not, I really haven't figured that out yet because I really haven't done much as far as, well, I mean, the feud just started, so. The feud just started. And now, for once, what is usually focused in the wrestling realm will actually be focused on the segments and will be focused in the other aspect of WCW and developing that, the segments as opposed to the wrestling. And hoping that the wrestling will be, the segments will be enough to carry the show instead of the wrestling. Larry, let me explain something. Look at who still holds the gold within the alliance. And answer me this. Why remain loyal? Why remain loyal? We'll break that down again when we go through the actual segments, but I think you could probably piece it together. I think you could probably piece it together what's going on. Uh, Black Blood going for Black Blood getting an opportunity. I gotta give Tully Blanchard one last match at the top of the show, and I don't think there's anybody better to give him a last match at the top of the show against than Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And then this leads to that. Ricky Steamboat challenging Rick Rude. Post-match, Steamboat challenges Rude for the U.S. Championship at Beach Blast. Cactus, Abby, Super Invader, and of course, Eddie Gilbert. Dusty and Ron want answers. Well, I'll tell you one thing. Cactus told you they weren't alone. For weeks, Cactus had been saying how him and Abby were not alone, and that's all he was saying. I mean, cryptic messages, if you want to call it that, but the fact of the matter is, Abby and Cactus had been saying that they were not alone, and initially the Great American Bash match was supposed to be a six-man tag, but it turned into a tag team match when Ron Simmons was taken out earlier in the show, and then that led to Abby and Cactus against Dusty and Sting, partially because, well, I know Dusty's not going to be active forever, and I want to give him some in-ring action while he's still active to be able to get some in-ring action, because Dusty's been on the shelf for the last, out of the ring for the last X amount of time, and getting him in the ring sounds like a lot more fun than keeping him out of the ring. You know what I mean? So there's that, and I have other ideas. You guys could see this going for, I could see this going for at least another year, maybe more than that, but the fact of the matter is, it's taken me this long to get comfortable in WCW. It's taken me this long to get things going in WCW, and to pick and choose who's sticking around, who's not, who's going in what direction, what's going to happen. And now, not only do I have stuff going for Sting as the world champion, but I got stuff going for the U.S. champion. I got stuff going for the television champion. I got stuff going for the NWA world title. I got stuff going all over the place, and it's just a question of what happens next. And this is one of the reasons why I chose to make this show the show that I shared with you, because this show is the show to set the stage for not just the rest of 1992, but not just the rest of 1992, but some of 1993 too. I guarantee you it's going to set the stage for that too, because these turns, or the Dangerous Alliance, is not coming apart that easy, because Larry Zbyszko and Rick Rude have shown some tension with each other since the win at War Games for the Dangerous Alliance, because Rick Rude basically took credit for the success of the Dangerous Alliance. Larry Zbyszko took exception to that. Rick Rude ended up costing Larry and Arn Anderson the tag team titles, and with Bobby Eaton being the only person that does not have a singles title, Arn and Larry were the tag team champions, but Bobby Eaton was the one who came up short in a time limit draw with Jushin Liger at the pay-per-view. I know, an amazing match. It was an amazing match for the NWA World title, but the fact of the matter is, the Dangerous Alliance is slowly but surely going to come apart like it should have in real life instead of just magically these guys are all going their separate ways. The main reason why that happened is because Paulie got fired. That's not happening with me. I know the value that Paul Heyman brings, and I'm going to keep him around as long as I possibly can. Chris Adams makes his debut against C.W. Bergstrom. Chris Adams is, in my opinion, one of the people that I'm going to be focusing on bringing into the television title division against Steve Austin for a variety of reasons, namely the fact that they did a feud in Memphis, Adams and Austin. I like the feud in Memphis, so I'm a fan of Memphis booking, and I'm going to bring that into WCW. Highlights at a bash, solid highlights. Brian Pillman does solid on the mic. This is going to be where Brian Pillman finally gets to flourish on the microphone, showing his charisma and his ability to speak. The fact of the matter is, last week, if you flash back, Diamond Dallas Page walked away. He left the Diamond Mind. He walked away from the Diamond Mind. He's done with Vinny Vegas. He's done with the Diamond Stud. He's done with the gimmicks. He's done with the comedy. He's done with the jokes. He's done with the bullshit. He's done. Now, Brian Pillman is here. He wants answers from Bill Watts as to why the lightweight division was broken up and the lightweight title was retired. He wants answers as to why he was injured and had to vacate his title, and within a month of him vacating his title, the title, instead of giving him the opportunity to get it back, it was retired, and the division split up. Instead of giving him the opportunity to bring stability back to that division, or even giving Liger the opportunity to bring the title back, he wants answers from Bill Watts and will not shut up until he gets them. This is the start of Brian Pillman becoming a superstar. Van Hammer actually did pretty well. The push of Van Hammer is actually going a lot better than I expected. Him working with Larry Zbyszko and Rick Rude for a couple of weeks, it seems to be going a lot better than I expected, which is kind of dumbfounding because I didn't expect it to go well at all. And Ron Simmons and Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes is helping Ron Simmons, which is amazing. And now we go back to what we talked about when I was booking Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko and Bobby Eaton going their separate ways away from the Alliance. The only question is, will Larry Zbyszko and Arn Anderson and Bobby Eaton all turn babyface? What happens with the Alliance? Are they all actually done with the Alliance? That's what we got to wait a couple weeks to find out. And now Black Blood makes his debut against Joey Maggs. Positive debut, negative results. It's never good when you see the awful, gimmick rating, but positive debut. A 61 in-ring performance is solid, and a 60 in-ring performance is solid. Eddie or Cat, they're solid themselves because 66 is solid rating. But to get to the next level, they need Dusty, they need Sting, they need Ron Simmons, they need somebody good at, talking. And this is not going to be like a 3-month blow-off with Eddie Gilbert throwing Abby and Cactus and this and that at Sting. It's going to be a big, stretched out thing. Because if you don't know, you're going to find out Eddie Gilbert has a history with Sting that dates back to the Universal Wrestling Federation and Sting's start in professional wrestling. So the fact of the matter is, these two have a long history and a story that has never been told that should be told, and I'm going to tell that story as best I can in TEW 2020. Honestly, this match was kind of disappointing, to be honest with you. I thought it would get a little bit better. But because it wasn't associated with a storyline, it wasn't good enough. But Ricky Steamboat does not fail to disappoint against challenging Rick Rude, as now the U.S. title has something interesting going on. So let me lay this out as we finish the show. This is the first time in 6 months I gained popularity at Great American Bash, and I gained popularity at World Championship Wrestling at this show, this is the first time in 6 months that back-to-back shows I've gained popularity. It is the first time in 6 months that I've gained popularity back-to-back shows. Hopefully, this means that momentum is going in my direction, as Rick Steamboat and Rick Rude are going to be fighting for the Rick Steamboat and Rick Rude are fighting for the United States title. Sting is going against Hot Stuff Incorporated for the world title with the help of Dusty Rhodes and Ron Simmons. Roddy Piper is coming in. The Dangerous Alliance is potentially splitting up. Ivan and Nikita are the tag team champions. The Freebirds are the tag team champions. Or the other set of the tag team champions. Brian Pillman is going against Bill Watts. Brian Pillman is going against the Commissioner. He's going against WCW. Diamond Dallas Page quit. What the hell is going to happen there? Van Hammer's doing a lot better than I expected as far as getting pushed. A lot is going on. Ow. A lot is going on as I hurt my hand because I hit my desk too hard. A lot is going on. Jushin Liger is putting together gem match after gem match. I didn't expect a 74 with Don Morocco. It took me 6 months, but finally I found some stability. Finally I found some continuity. And finally, hopefully, some momentum within the ranks of WCW in 1992. And if you want to join me on this road to find success a few years earlier for WCW without Ric Flair, WCW without Ric Flair, this is the story of WCW without Ric Flair. This is the story of WCW in 1992 if things went well. I know the bar's not high, but I got a lot of ideas, and I hope you join me as we go down the road of WCW, and this one's not ending anytime soon. But I will see you in the next one.